Hey, I'm Tara Stiles, and today I'm going to show you guys a yoga routine that you can do to build strength. So this routine is great because it'll make you really strong, and you'll also be able to build towards harder positions in yoga. So the first thing you can do is just come into a plank position, and you're just going to hold this for 10 really long, deep breaths. And try not to sway in your back. Try to keep the plank pose really solid and concentrated there for 10 really long, deep breaths. And after you've done that, just come into a side plank position. So you're still going to be really pushing down on that hand, really lifting up in your hips, and then you can also extend the top arm. And try to hold this here for 5 really long, deep breaths. Now, if you've done that, just come back into the plank position again and try to keep maintaining it and hold this for another 5 breaths, really long, really deep. And then just make sure to do the other side. So when you're in the side plank, make sure to keep everything hugging towards the midline and keeping your abs engaged while you're pushing down through your hand and lifting up through your hips. So after that, just push back into downward facing dog, and then just move your right foot forward and come up into a straight high lunge. And here you just want to make sure also to keep your abs engaged and make sure your hips are really square to face the front. And then you're just going to inhale and straighten your leg, and exhale and bend your front leg. And then you're just going to repeat that 10 times. So it's going to start to get a little bit hard, and you're going to just want to make sure to keep everything solid in your core and just keep steady up and down, up and down. And then just push back into downward dog and switch sides. When you're in the high lunge, make sure to keep your front ribs, and you're going to want to, especially after you've been doing it for a few times, you're going to want to splay your ribs forward and kind of collapse. So make sure you really keep your ribs in, just like you're wearing a corset shirt or a really tight coat, and also keep your abs engaged, and that'll help you stay really solid when you're doing the bending and the straightening of the leg. So just come back into downward facing dog, and then you're going to jump through into boat pose. So in boat pose, you just want to make sure that your back is really straight, and then you can set the level for the height of your legs. That's a really hard thing to do, keeping your back straight in boat pose, but you're really going to feel it a lot more in your stomach if you do. And here you're just going to hold 10 really long, deep breaths, and try to just keep everything together, keep everything centralized and hugging towards the midline for those 10 breaths. And then after that, you're just going to lower all the way down about 6 inches to the ground with your feet up and your head up, and you're going to hold there for 5 really long, deep breaths as long as you can. And it's really hard, and then you can collapse on the ground, but just hold that for a couple breaths. Don't take too long of a break. And then you're going to come back into another boat pose, but this time you can bend your knees to a 90-degree angle and try to hold that for 10 really long, deep breaths. And then you can come all the way back down again, holding it just above the ground for 5 really long, deep breaths, and then you can collapse all the way down. After that, just push on back to downward facing dog one more time. And the last thing we're going to do is a preparation for forearm stand. So to build up the upper body strength and the correct alignment for forearm stand, just try lowering both forearms to the ground at the same time, and then press on up. And you're going to try to do that 5 times in a row. So just lowering straight down and then pressing straight up. And one thing to think about here is you can do it just lowering straight down. You don't have to do one and the other. Just think about hugging everything, hugging your arms into the midline, and then just lowering straight down, and then using from your back to push straight up. That's my yoga for strength building routine, and I hope it makes you strong.